Hi everyone, Lisa Stones-Peck from Spellbound Miniatures here. Today I'm going to show you how I made this really cute Valentine's project out of craftboard and copy paper. The SVGs for this project are free and downloadable in the Miniatures app. It's available on Google and in the Apple App Store, and I'll put the link in the description below. Once you're in the app, head to the Discover section, click on Experts, select Spellbound Miniatures and click Downloads, and there you'll find the Valentines SVGs. You can simply download them to your computer and import them into Design Space. I've sized the vase at a little over a foot tall in 12th scale, but you can make it larger or smaller, just drag the dimension buttons. You'll need to hide the green inch square. You need to cut the red vase shape. I cut mine in craftboard. And then you need to change all the remaining cut lines to score lines. When you've done that, click Select All and Attach, and this makes sure the score lines are placed onto the piece you're cutting out. If you don't have the scoring wheel, you can use the Cricut accessory on the right in the A slot, and that will score your project. Alternatively, you can put a pen again in the A slot and have it draw the score lines instead, so you would change the score lines to draw, and this will then give you a nice outline that you can go over and score by hand and still be able to make this project if you don't have the scoring wheel. I've chosen black pen on white craftboard here to show you, to make it easier to see in the tutorial. You might want to choose a slightly less obtrusive pen colour or even a pencil. So here's the drawn and cut vase template. You need to fold up the flaps around the base, and you'd simply glue the flap onto each side, working your way round and making sure that the base stays level. And then you glue the final end flap onto the inside and keep everything square while it dries. I made this slightly larger scale just to make it easier for you to see on the tutorial, but the finished photographs are in 12th scale and just over an inch high for the vase. So to make the rose, once we've imported the SVG, we again change the little cut lines to score lines. These score the veins on the leaf. Everything else remains as a cut line, and we hide the green square. And then, just as we did with the vase, we select all and then we click Attach, and then we can make it. I made mine from white copy paper initially. I've got some green florist wire and some tiny little beads, and I'm going to glue the bead onto the end, and this gives us more of a shape to glue the petals onto. And it's quite good to work with batches in a production line when you're making flowers. It's quite repetitive. So here I'm using the handheld scoring tool to just burnish the petals and give them some shape. You could also use the rounded end of a paintbrush, anything you've got to hand like that. And then dot some glue on the inside of the petal, bring the beaded end down and shape the petal around the bead, gently crimping it and forming it over the wire and the bead. And really you're trying to create a closed bud effect. This will be the centre of the rose. And then do the same with a second and a third piece of the slimmest rose petals. You can close them over the bead or leave them open if you've got a coordinating bead, it's up to you. And then do the same embossing with the tool onto the larger heart-shaped pieces. Put some glue on the bottom of the petal and form those around the bud centre, and squeeze and roll as you go to build up in layers some nice tight petals. I've also included a group of 3 heart-shaped petals, which you can put a hole in through the middle and thread that up the stem, and then this builds out your rose quicker and makes slightly more open petals, which you would find on the outside of the flower. And again, just put glue around the base and squeeze it into shape. Put as many of these on as you think looks good for your rose. So once I was happy with my white prototype, I decided to use alcohol ink and stain all of the other remaining petals. And you literally just need to drop it on and it spreads out by itself, and it covers all the way through the copy paper and does the edges in one go. And then I just repeated the same process as I did with the white petals, glued them closed over the bead this time, and built out the heart-shaped single petals, and then added the triple petals on the outside. I put glue on just one edge of the calyx and glued that half onto the rose and half onto the stem, and let that dry so that I had something that I could pull against. And then I just wound it around, gluing as I went until I felt that it looked the right amount of layers. I didn't have any green paper, so I used 2 different colour Sharpies to colour in both the leaf and the calyx. And then I used the weeding tool to create just a sort of shape within the leaf, and then glued that V shape onto the stem. So there we have the roses in the vase. I put blue tack in the bottom of my vase to put the stems into and hold them in place. I wanted my vase to have that sort of glazed china effect, so I primed it with spray primer and then sprayed a white gloss paint on it. And as you can see, it teams perfectly with the Valentine's plate project from Nancy as well. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. Remember to click subscribe if you haven't already, and I hope you have a fabulous Valentine's Day.